Okay, maybe we can jump into our agenda and then while a couple more folks are jumping on. Okay, so thank you all for joining us. We're sort of gonna all introduce ourselves throughout this presentation, so you'll get to know each of us here in a minute. But for this webinar today, we're gonna talk about a little overview of the Seattle 2030 district for those of you that may not be familiar. I know some of you are also members, so you know this part. We're gonna keep that pretty short, and then we're going to go into an overview of the Seattle Public Utilities Green Business Program resources. Those are resources across solid waste, water conservation, and pollution prevention. And then we're going to talk a little bit about our EnviroStars Green Business Recognition Program that's available for businesses in Washington State. And then we have Erin from the Seattle Aquarium to give us a little case study on some of their sustainability actions that they've been aided by the Green Business Program and EnviroStars to implement. And then we're going to have time for Q&A. So if you have questions as we're going through any of this, please put that in the chat. And then Daniel, I think our next piece is giving the overview of 2030 district.
Wonderful. Well, thanks everyone for joining. My name is Daniel Pope. I'm the executive director of the Seattle and Bellevue 2030 districts. We are two of our 24 2030 districts across North America. 2030 districts are membership organizations made up of property owners, property managers, and developers, but also architects, engineers, contractors, and community groups, all of whom are committed to making our buildings more sustainable and specifically hitting the targets set for us by Architecture 2030, which are a 50% reduction in energy, water, and transportation emissions by the year 2030. So we do this in a variety of ways. We do education work like this, where we're helping to provide resources and trainings for folks to figure out how to make their buildings more sustainable. We also do building performance analysis, where we actually look at our 500 member properties and help them figure out how they're performing and how they can do better. And then we also do some policy work trying to help people, trying to create more public programs and policies that are there to help folks reduce building emissions and just create a more sustainable and livable Seattle and Bellevue. If you're interested in learning more, you can visit us online or reach out anytime, and we're happy to chat more. And if you're in Boise and want to spin up a 2030 district, drop us a line. We're very keen to help out.
Awesome. Thanks for the quick overview. So let me officially introduce myself. My name is Lynn Knapp, and I am the program manager for the Seattle Public Utilities Green Business Program. I'm also going to say that phrase a lot, and I will shorten Seattle Public Utilities to SPU throughout this. And so I work for Cascadia Consulting Group, which is an environmental consulting firm in downtown Seattle, and we manage the program on behalf of the city. And then my colleague Amy Lynn is also with us today, and she supports outreach and engagement to businesses throughout the Green Business Program and also helps run our EnviroStars Green Business Recognition Program. And you'll hear more about that shortly. You can go to the next one, Amy. Thank you. So the Seattle Public Utilities Green Business Program has been around since the early 2000s, though it's gone through many different names. And we've helped over 10,000 businesses improve their sustainability in the city. So all of the services provided through the program are free to businesses within the city of Seattle, and some of them are eligible for businesses outside the city, but we'll talk about those. And then in addition to the free resources from SPU, businesses also have access to the EnviroStars Green Business Recognition Program, which is available for any business in Washington. We're going to talk more about EnviroStars soon, but you can kind of think of the Green Business Program and EnviroStars as sort of two programs under one. And in getting support from our team, you can also help your business or organization work toward meeting the Seattle 2030 district performance goals. So that's why we're sort of co-hosting this. And again, for folks that have just jumped on, if you have questions as I go through these resources, please put those in the chat. We'll have time at the end to do some Q&A. And if you would like any of these resources, also please put that in the chat and we'll reach out to you and get those to you. Next slide. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is our first sustainability support area, which is solid waste. So why waste reduction and diversion is important in Seattle and, well, beyond, but specifically in Seattle, garbage that gets picked up in our city is sent via train all the way to Southern Oregon, if you didn't know that, which is why it's really important for us to divert materials to more local processes like recycling and composting. Our program assists businesses with their waste education so they can stay in compliance with Seattle regulations. One important ordinance is listed here on the slide that the Seattle Municipal Code requires that residents and businesses do not put food scraps, compostable paper, yard waste, or recyclables in their garbage. So the goal of this ordinance is really to reduce waste in our community and encourage people to follow correct waste sorting practices. And there are many ways that our program supports businesses in doing that sorting and waste reduction. So I'm going to sort of talk through the different free resources available. So in terms of our waste diversion resources, our team can provide technical assistance to make sure your business is in compliance with the recycling and composting laws. Some of the technical assistance offerings include a waste audit, where we work with your garbage hauler to come on site, physically sort through waste and provide feedback on diversion and reduction. And the aquarium's going to talk more about their experience with a waste audit towards the end of the presentation. And then we can also come to your building or office and conduct a staff waste training. We do lots of these every year. During the presentation, we would provide an interactive presentation during a staff meeting or like lunch and learn and educate attendees on waste habits and also just what goes where. A lot of people don't think about after they put something in the bin, where does that go? Is that processed in Seattle? Does that go all the way to Eastern Oregon? So we sort of talk through those things. And we also provide specific information on how to sort waste at your business based on the specific materials you have there. And we also can work directly with property managers or business tenants to help improve office composting by breaking down barriers to making recycling and composting easier. So we offer things like posters, stickers, bin signage. You can order those for free on our website. Or again, if you want any of these resources, please just put that in the chat and we'll follow up with you. Next slide. We also just recently launched a reuse and durables rebate incentive program with support from the Seattle Office of Economic Development. And it's sort of housed under a waste prevention campaign called Reuse Seattle. The goal of Reuse Seattle is to move our city towards less single-use packaging, which currently makes up the majority of our garbage stream in the city. So right now, we have funding for up to 250 businesses to receive $500 in a rebate toward replacing single-use food service packaging with durable versions. So sort of think of swapping out a disposable paper plate for a ceramic one that gets washed and reused at a restaurant. And this is available to any food service business in Seattle. So that's restaurants, that's special events venues, that's offices with food service within them. Anyone who has food service packaging, they are eligible for this. And I'm going to go over a little case study in terms of reusables. So last summer, we launched a first of its kind reusable cup system at a number of live music venues in Seattle, including the Showbox, the Moore Theater, and Woodland Park Zoo Tunes concert series. Zoo Tunes was previously using compostable single-use cups and switched to reusable cups serviced by Our Cup, who is a reusable cup vendor in the city of Seattle. And Our Cup provides the cups, collects them after each concert, washes them at a facility in Soto, and returns them to the venue for reuse at the next concert. You can see the environmental metrics here for the 12 concerts, but it's also important to note that Woodland Park Zoo was able to save a lot of money on compost collection costs since the majority of their compost was single-use cups before the switch. So pretty impressive there. In addition to concert venues, restaurants, and cafes, we're also supporting office buildings in switching to durable or reusable packaging for their on-site food service operations. So if you have questions about the reuse rebate or want to envision what reuse could look like at your business or at your building, please let us know. We love talking about it. Our goal through the city is really to provide those connections and visioning for what it could look like and modeling what the cost savings could be. So yeah, please let us know if you're interested in anything Reuse Seattle related. And I know I'm going through each of these things quickly, but good to note that we also have a recording of this training too, to sort of share beyond the group we have here, revisit. So next, I'm going to talk a little bit about water conservation. So our team provides customized tips to save water in your space. We offer two kinds of water conservation kits. We have aerator kits to help reduce the flow of water on hand washing sinks, and leak detection kits to help identify leaks. Yes, and support your tenants and employees to report leaks so they can be fixed. We can also help determine if you're eligible for rebates to upgrade your toilets, kitchen equipment, and other water using fixtures to more efficient models. We also offer water assessments to find leaks and provide recommendations for upgrades. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about those assessments in a case study in a moment. And then again, these actions contribute to the 2030 district performance goal to reduce water use. You can go to the next slide. I want to talk a little bit more about the rebates. So water rebates can include anything on this slide. One note about toilets and urinals, they need to be fairly old for rebates, like pre-2004 and higher than 1.6 gallons per flush. Less and less of those types of toilets out there, but I know we still come across them. So I also want to note that the photo on this slide is from a seafood processing plant. If you were wondering what that is that you're seeing, that's fish. And the water assessment that we did there found that adding sleeves to this machine that skins the fish fillets, there could be a ton of water savings, and they were eligible for a custom rebate from Seattle Public Utilities. Even though this is like a very customized system, they were eligible for a rebate to reduce water use and increase efficiency there. And we also offer multifamily rebates for mixed use buildings. Go to the next slide, where I'm going to talk a little bit about a case study for the Space Needle water assessment. The Saving Water Partnership's free water use assessments are carried out by our water specialist. His name's Michael, that you see in these photos. And those are a great way for businesses to get personalized recommendations for reducing water loss and increasing water efficiency in buildings. These assessments, they usually take about, depending on the site and depending on how much equipment you have, like 1 to 2 hours, and help identify projects that qualify for retrofit rebates for up to 50% of the project cost. So some of those rebates I discussed on the previous slide, some of those would be custom rebates, and some of those sort of have a set amount that you get a rebate for. And any business whose water utility is a member of the Saving Water Partnership, which are businesses in Seattle, but also outside in some of other King County areas, are eligible for these water assessments as well. So this is one of the items that's not just available in Seattle, but you're eligible for free on-site assessments. And you'll receive, after the assessment, you receive a list of prioritized actions to reduce water use and save on utility costs. So that would have the list of equipment upgrades that you would be eligible for, as well as operation and maintenance practices that we would recommend. So talking a little more about the Space Needle, the Saving Water Partnership was approached by them after they noticed an uptick in their monthly water bills. So they reached out to our team to request the assessment. We met them on site with our water specialist, Michael, and did a walkthrough of the space to identify water savings. Just in case you didn't know, the Space Needle is open 364 days a year, and it receives 1.3 million visitors annually. So there was many opportunities for sustainability actions in terms of water conservation for this high use space. And the assessment provided the following recommendations. So to install low flow faucet aerators in restrooms, that's a common one that we recommend in most assessments. To replace the existing nozzle on their pressure washer with a lower flow model, and replace toilets with models that use 1.28 gallons per flush and urinals that use 0.125 gallons per flush. And if they implemented those actions, our assessment showed that they could save approximately 359,000 gallons of water per year, or around $12,000 a year. And they're pretty easy to make upgrades, not swapping out huge equipment or anything like that. And then after our assessment, we had additional conversations around sustainability at Seattle Center, where the Seattle Space Needle is located, including doing another water assessment in Chihuly Gardens and Glass, an exploration of a potential water leak at an adjacent fountain there, And we also met with them to talk about the Reuse Seattle potential for replacing single-use packaging at the Space Needle as well. Awesome. And just checking the chat to see if there are questions. Please add questions in there if you have them. Next, I want to talk about pollution prevention resources. So SPU helps prevent all types of pollution. That's one of the goals of the utilities. So the first topic within pollution prevention that we cover is wastewater, aka sewer water. So we want to eliminate sewer clogs and leaks. So flushing items other than toilet paper down the toilet creates clogs, which can break pipes and or create backups. And we know that these are often costly for businesses to fix, and they can contribute to major issues down the pipe at our local sewer stations. So one way that we prevent that is we provide signage and bins in the restroom to alert people not to flush things down the toilet. A lot of times, if you walk into a business, you will see either this signage or something handwritten that says, like, we have old pipes, please don't flush anything other than toilet paper down the toilet. So we just offer that service of coming in and putting these up there, a more graphic version of that. And so we also want to prevent fats, oils, and grease from food preparation from entering sink drains, because they contribute to clogs, especially when they mix with all this other stuff that's being flushed down the toilet that shouldn't be, and those can cause sewer overflows. So we do offer sink strainers and what is this called? And posters that outline how to protect drains from clogs in terms of food preparation, whether that just be rinsing a plate in your office or actually for food service businesses. And we do a lot of training for food service businesses on the requirements when it comes to fats, oils, and grease in Seattle. And then we also offer spill kits. So to protect storm drains, we have a free spill kit program where businesses who are on street level are eligible for a free spill kit in order to clean up any sort of contaminated material that may be spilled so that it's not flowing into the drain. Businesses are eligible for fines if investigations show that they were negligent in cleaning up spills. So that's something we also offer for free. Next slide. In terms of a case study on this one, Seattle Public Utilities in the last couple of years has partnered with a couple of college campuses, University of Washington, Seattle Pacific University, and Seattle University, to really try to work in multifamily buildings around these colleges to reduce clogs, because it's one of the places where we saw clogs most often. So we use several outreach methods to focus on the correct flushing behavior. And those methods included stall posters, like we talked about installing in businesses, mirror posters, social media advertisements, and we also did tabling in the dorm lobbies to provide free toilet paper with behavior change messaging wrapped on it. And these are sort of strategies that are more applicable to a multifamily audience, but help inform the types of business engagement we do. So overall, the program was successful, and we did create behavior change, which was measured by doing sort of pre and post surveys from the outreach. And we really recommend to use the method of posting signage about flushing at the location where the behavior is happening. So in the bathroom or stalls, and to also engage via in-person outreach like tabling, because we were able to share many facts about how things can't be flushed, especially the so-called flushable wipes that I'm sure many of you have heard about that cause a lot of clogs in our sewer system. So this is sort of a case study of a deeper dive into reducing clogs, but is also applicable to sort of the messaging that we use when we're doing outreach and engagement with businesses. So that is an overview of everything that we offer for free through the Seattle Public Utilities Program for businesses. And I'm going to pass it on to Amy to talk about an overview of the EnviroStars Green Business Recognition Program.
Awesome. Thank you, Lynn, for that overview of the Green Business Program. Transitioning into EnviroStars, which Lynn in the beginning mentioned, is a program. Let me go to the next slide. It's a recognition program available to any businesses in Washington. So it's not just Seattle. It's any business in Washington. And the goal of it is to be a one-stop hub for any business to get information, help, resources related to conserving the resources, saving money, and sustainability in general. So our goal really is to assist these businesses to reduce their costs and conserve resources and gain a competitive edge while we're at it to contribute to a very clean and healthy community, which is what we all want, hopefully. And so this program basically has this checklist that a business goes through. I will go to the next slide to show you that. So this is the checklist that they will go through. It's a really quick 3-step application process. They start this online. They select the measures that apply to them. So on this slide, you'll see contact your energy utility for advice. That's one of the measures that the business could do to conserve their energy usage. And so once they get measures checked, fill out their application, you get recognized and officially become an EnviroStars business. And we do a series of, before they get recognized, we do a series of verification, either through phone call or an in-person on-site visit. And so it's pretty painless application process that focuses on several different areas. As you can see on the screen here, there's energy, pollution prevention, solid waste, transportation, wastewater, water, and community. So it's pretty comprehensive. And we have checklists for all types of businesses in all different industries. And I see that there are a few businesses. Well, Erin's here from Seattle Aquarium, as well as Caitlin from Georgetown Brewery, which is also an EnviroStars business. And so a few benefits for joining. Obviously, we mentioned competitive edge. People in Washington care a lot about sustainability. And so in addition to that, you get free recognition materials like the window cling you see here and a certificate, as well as some marketing opportunities. And so once you get recognized, you will be listed in our online green business directory, which allows customers to find and support your business. And so you'll see here on the lower right here, the green business directory. And basically, the more green actions you take on the application as a company, the more recognition benefits you receive. And so there are 3 different tier levels: leader, partner, and champion. And we will help you every step of the way to try to get you as many points as possible. And to the next slide, you'll see these are the additional custom digital advertising that we do for recognized businesses. And so these examples are posted on Facebook or Meta. And here are the 3 examples. And I actually included Caitlin from Georgetown Brewery. So these are the 3 businesses that found value in becoming recognized as EnviroStars. And so depending on where your business is, we can provide you with the resources available tailored to your local area in Washington. Do a quick pause here. Thanks.
Amy, I also went ahead and dropped the link to the EnviroStars website in the chat for folks who may want to get started on the application or just learn more about the program there.
And if you are from a city or state where you don't have a green business program like this, feel free to reach out. We'd be happy to provide our insight and see where we can help. Well, then we will have Erin from Seattle Aquarium to talk about their experience with EnvirStars and increasing their sustainability efforts with the support from Seattle Public Utilities Green Business Program and EnvirStars. I'll hand it off to you, Erin.
Great, thanks, Amy. My name's Erin Lefevre. My pronouns are she, hers, and I'm the Regenerative Program Manager at the Seattle Aquarium. And so a little bit about what we're doing at the aquarium. We started out working on a sustainability plan, and as we were workshopping everything, realized that we wanted to go beyond sustainability and have a positive impact on our environment. So we created this vision for a regenerative aquarium. So that's where my title comes from, and this regenerative plan. So that's what we're working towards. So in the Green Business Program has helped us in a variety of ways. So I'll talk about a few of them. One being back in 2017, we did our first waste audit with SPU, and you can go back to the last slide, Amy. And out of that, we are finding a lot of contamination in our cafe. There is a cafe at the aquarium. And so we implemented these signs on our bins, and they're actually magnets, so we can switch out exactly what the cafe is selling at that time and put a little magnet on there. So this is exactly what we sell in the cafe, so it's exactly what you see when you buy something, and then this is what bin it goes into. You know, at the aquarium we have a really tough time with tourists. We have so many people there that aren't from the area, that might not even recycle in their hometown. And so they really don't know what to do. And so we implemented this, and it was a huge success. We have almost, no contamination coming from our cafes. So this has been wonderful. So that was one of the first ways we used SPU's Green Business Program and their support for that waste audit. But we also, 2017 was a few years ago now, and we do have a goal to be zero waste by 2025. So we did another waste audit with them just a couple weeks ago. So we can go to the next slide, Amy. So on Monday, July 24th, we collected all of the waste from the aquarium, and this is our executive team. So we got our CEO in there, our COO, all the VPs, and they were the ones to do our waste audit, which was just super fun. You can go to the next slide. And this is what we have found. So we have quite a lot of recyclables and compostable material going into the trash, but that's kind of good. I think people are really following that when in doubt, throw it out kind of thing, which is fine. Our compost was almost pure compost, which was really exciting, but I think this is really because of the controlled environments that we're collecting compost from. This is mostly bathroom paper towels, back of the house food prep, things like that. And then of course, recycling is our biggest opportunity. That's the most confusing always, because it changes from city to city. It changes from Seattle to Bellevue. It's, nobody knows what's going on. So we definitely have some improvement to make there. And go to the next slide. But what was exciting to see is that if everything was actually sorted correctly, we only have 18% landfill. And that's with, I think we had over 3,800 people visit that day. That's pretty great. Of that, a very little bit amount is going to the landfill. So our goal is that's 10% by 2025. So we're close. I think that we can get there. And I just want to point out that bottom right picture, that's our CEO, Bob Davidson, elbows deep in a bag. So I just love that picture. All right, you can go to the next slide. Another way that we've used this is that Reuse Seattle. So we have been working with our food service provider at the aquarium, Sodexo, to use our cup for some of our larger or less formal events. We do a lot of weddings and things at the aquarium, and so those are going to be glassware already. But sometimes we have corporate events, or we have after hours events about 4 times a year where we're using compostable cups like the zoo was doing or those other events. So we did a pilot on July 22nd and it was really successful. We had a 99% return rate, which was really exciting. So we're hoping to do more with our cup there. Use SPU's rebate of the $500 startup cost, which is really helpful. And hope to see our cup at a lot of our after hours events going forward. Go next. Okay, so I must have skipped a slide. I did want to talk about EnviroStars a little bit. I think maybe that was the first one we flipped through really quickly. But I just wanted to echo, what Amy said about how easy it is to sign up, really. I went online and I filled out everything that we're doing, and it was pretty painless. And then Amy came by and did a site visit, which was also pretty painless and just fun to walk around and look at everything to get our EnviroStars recognition. So we got that earlier this year, which was really exciting. And it's really been helpful because we've taken that checklist and we've put it into a program of our own to now do an annual check. So, we started to think about, aerators on sinks. Well, what if that sink had broken throughout the year and somebody went to fix it, and how do we know that aerator got put back on and things like that? So we realized it was important to start checking this annually and not just do the recognition once and walk away from it. So we've implemented that into part of our just annual operations to go ahead, do a walkthrough once a year, make sure we're staying on top of things, make sure we're updating new things that have come online too, and continue to stay on top of our building operations that way. So it has been a really great tool for the aquarium, and I hope to continue to use it as well. So that's what I have. I'm trying to think if I missed anything. I'm not sure. So yeah, if there's any questions, I'm happy to talk more about what we're doing. And I will drop my email in the chat as well if anybody thinks of anything later on.
Thank you so much, Erin. I see we do have a couple questions in the chat. It looks like the first says, I love the specific waste magnets. Amy, could you go back to that photo too while we're talking about them? How did you make them?
That's a great question. This actually predates me. I've only been here a little over a year. I know that our marketing team worked really hard on that. So I don't know like specifically what vendor we used or what the material is, but it is a magnet, which saves us from like printing new signs and things like that.
Yeah, and Caitlin, we could probably I was slightly involved with this effort back in 2017, so I could probably look back through my emails and find out for you. I'll put that in a little note to follow up with you on that.
Yeah, if you can't find anything, I know who made them, my coworker, and so I can reach out to him and see what he's got too.
Awesome. Yeah, I don't know if I ever got specifics about it. It's apparently not right in the front of my brain from that many years ago, but yeah, we could definitely check. Yeah, they're really cool though. Really cool because, sometimes you do have a product that there's a shortage, right? Especially with the compostable food packaging items. So being able to swap out those images, or just even if you just need to take it off the sign for the day, right? If that's not if you need a swap a recyclable item for compostable because you can't get that product in stock right now, it gives you that flexibility to be able to change where it's supposed to go. And then next question, is our cup only operating in Seattle? Are they planning on expanding to other cities? Do you have contact information for Reuse Seattle? Yeah, so our cup is currently operating in a couple of cities. So they started actually in Denver with music venues there. They actually started way before that with sort of like touring musicians that were really had a sustainability focus and providing cups for each of their sort of tour stops. But yeah, so they started in Denver. Seattle was sort of their second big launch city. I think they're also in like LA and maybe city on the East Coast. It's listed on their website, but I will also put a link to our Reuse Seattle website here. We have a couple other vendors who are also working in this city. one called reusables.com that offers stainless steel to-go cups for cafes. We have another one called Bold Reuse that's sort of more of a food service packaging to go for restaurants and food service. So we have a couple of different vendors that you can see on our site that are operating in Seattle. And then I think I answered that question. And then Erin, do you know how long is this, Daniel, is this in terms of the R-Cup pilot at the zoo or at the aquarium?
Well, I was asking about the aquarium. Just kind of curious what the loss rate was over a specific time period.
So this was just for one event. We do reusables, like if you're eating at the cafe, that's all reusables. This was just for an after hours event. I think we had a corporate picnic that did it, and so it was a 99% return rate for that. And I think we did like I want to say our food service provider did like a 6-month contract with R-Cup to pilot this at those types of events. So we're using this for just one-off events, not in our cafe.
And I will say for Zoo Tunes and the Showbox and some of the other folks that launched last year, they're all still using them. So Zoo Tunes just happens in the summer, but they're, after last year it was so successful that they're doing it this year as well. And then for venues that have ongoing shows like the Showbox, they continue to use R-Cup, and that's expanded into even larger venues like WAMU Theater now have R-Cup, and yeah, we're looking to expand to what we call like these closed loop venues where people can't take their cups out with them unless they like hide them in their bag or something, right? But you can't just sort of walk out of the venue with them. And at Woodland Park, because it was the first place to really launch the cups, we were staffing these bin stations that you see here, because it really is, we talk about adding a 4th bin to be able to capture cups, unless you have some sort of event where there's very little food or something like that. But we sort of staffed these and talked to people to sort of get their feedback on how it went using a reusable cup. I know that seems like a small thing, but people were really excited about it. I was there the first night that we launched, and we just heard from so many people, oh my gosh, I'm so excited you're doing this. I hope you do this at other venues. I can't wait to see this more across Seattle. So that's really our longer term vision, is for Seattle, folks who live in Seattle to be able to go to their cafe and get a reusable cup. They go to a concert, they get a reusable cup. They get their takeout to go, it's in a reusable container, so that reuse just becomes more of the norm, and we really reduce single use over time.
We've also been thinking about how to replicate this in other ways. So for example, like name tags at events, we have like donor events and things like that have this, and R-Cup just comes to mind because they're so good at return rates. And they have this like down to a science. So we were sitting there thinking about like when you go to conferences or you have a meeting or something, and you get your lanyard with your name tag in it, and you're supposed to return it, but everybody forgets. And so I was like, oh, how can we do what R-Cup does and make sure to get those returns? So it's really cool to also like, it's applicable to many more things than just cups.
Yeah, absolutely. We sort of started with food service packaging because it's where we were seeing that as the item that's most in the waste stream and most causes contamination. But there is certainly opportunities to think of reuse in a lot of different ways, not just in food service packaging. The name tags is a great example. I see another question here. How many businesses organically reaching out to the Seattle Green Business Program? Great question. It depends, but we do have a green business hotline, and it's both a phone number that's available in 10 languages, the hotline number, and then we also have an email address. And on any given day, Amy actually manages our green business hotline, so she could probably give you a better estimate, but I would say probably between, it could be anywhere from like 1 business reaching out a day to like 15. So we get a lot of organic sort of proactive, or I guess more reactive engagement with businesses. Yeah, there's our hotline information there. Because our program's been around a really long time, we're getting a lot of businesses who say, hey, you provided a waste training when I was at this business and now I'm at this new business and we could really use some more help. Can you come, provide a waste training? Or, with folks like the aquarium, where maybe we supported them in solid waste and then they need support in a different subject matter, we provide that. So, and we like being the one-stop shop for all of these different topic areas through the utility. And we're usually doing, lots of reactive engagement, but we also do outreach to sites as well. So each year we select priority sectors and priority communities that have been potentially underserved by the program in the past, or if we have a specific regulation that's rolling out that's going to affect certain businesses. Like we had a statewide bag ban that went into effect in Washington state, and we had a bag ban in Seattle before that, but it didn't require food service businesses to have paper or reusable bags, and the statewide ban did require that. So we did proactive outreach to restaurants to let them know that they could no longer use the single-use plastic bag. So just kind of depending on the requirements each year, or different communities or areas of the city that have been underserved by the program, we do proactive outreach. And right now, for example, with the new Reuse Seattle incentive program, we're doing outreach to businesses that maybe, have a lot of food service packaging, or even not a lot, but just have food service packaging. So mostly restaurants, but also bigger sort of stadiums, event venues, that sort of thing. And then in terms of how many site waste evaluations or trainings we do per month or year, it really depends. During the pandemic, we weren't doing very many waste trainings because there wasn't very many people in the office. We did some sort of like remote ones, but because the requirements are so different if you live outside the city of Seattle, not always, but a lot of times they're quite different. So I would say sort of pre-pandemic, and now we probably do 15 to 20 waste trainings a year. And then in terms of waste assessments, that really varies too. Usually it's a handful maybe that we're doing each year. But we don't have necessarily like a cap on that or anything. Just as businesses reach out, we provide that.
And then I think you mentioned this, but the multilingual language piece, I think it's pretty helpful that we offer trainings in different languages depending on the staff we have available and depending on what the business needs. And so I think that generally makes it more equitable in terms of like which communities get served through the program.
Yeah, that's a great point, Amy. And we also customize the waste training to the materials and type of business. So if we're doing a waste training to an office building, it's usually, a lunch and learn or in a conference room with a PowerPoint. If we're providing a waste training to a restaurant, we're usually walking around with the back of house staff, going through each material they have and just discussing what bin it goes in. And a lot of times that will be an in-language training where we're providing support in Spanish, Cantonese, Mandarin, Vietnamese, something like that, as we're going through that with staff. Other questions about, did that answer all of your questions? Okay, great. Other questions folks have, feel free to put those in the chat. Oh, great. I see a question from Bill. How many businesses, EnviroStars or Green Business, are interested or inquiring on the topic of stormwater, specifically the possibility of collecting rooftop water into cisterns or rain gardens? Great question, Bill. I think there's, again, it sort of has fluctuated from year to year. So I think when there's more promotion of the RainWise program, which is a program available in Seattle, mostly for residential, but when there's more promotion of that program, we will get businesses that reach out about this. Actually, interestingly enough, I think in the last few years, the business that's reached out to us the most about this tend to be cannabis companies who are wondering about the use of things like rainwater and stormwater for their processes. But I think there is, it's not often, but it does come up from time to time. I would say maybe a few times a year maximum, but it also just depends on sort of what promotion SPU is doing in terms of rain wise for sort of residential. Then we tend to get more businesses that will reach out and ask about it. And then we also have places of worship often reach out just because they tend to have more landscaping than other types of larger buildings. Yeah.
I was going to mention,
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I'll just add on the 2030 district side, we're seeing many of our new construction developers are adopting a lot more aggressive approaches to stormwater treatment on site. And a lot of the new properties that we're seeing coming online are Salmon Safe certified. Where we run into stormwater treatment problems is in sort of the downtown core with the zero lot line buildings and the unreinforced masonry buildings that don't really have feasible options for stormwater treatment. And that's something that we're trying to address at the 2030 district level. But for the new construction side, it's clearly something that people are thinking about and are thinking kind of as part of a lot of their building certification processes and that kind of thing. So we're excited to explore that more with our members and pointing them to the RainWise program or to other programs that are available, like Salmon Safe, is a big priority for us just because of our proximity to the watersheds here. But we are seeing, I would say, an uptick in interest in it, even at a time where the policy landscape is sort of prioritizing the energy use within the buildings. And Amy, I think I jumped on you there. So
yeah, just speaking of like interest and uptick in the interest in this, funny that I mentioned the places of worship, Lynn, because I visited a church recently for Envar Stars. They're trying to be Envar Stars recognized. And they were so proud of their rain garden in their front area. And so it seems like a more common thing now that people are interested.
Yeah. Other questions? Also, feel free to unmute and ask questions if you'd prefer to do that versus writing it in the chat.
I'll also just mention we are joined by Steve Braglum from the Space Needle. So if you have any Space Needle specific questions about their experience with this service, I'm sure Steve, I'm volunteering Steve, I guess, to answer any questions about that.
Sure. Happy to help you guys out anyway. So ask questions if you like, or you can email me or give me a call.
Great. Thanks, Steve. Yeah, Bill, we did outreach and engagement a couple of years back when Department of Health changed their essentially allowed the cannabis companies to do composting of the cannabis waste after processing. We did outreach and engagement to them in terms of composting requirements. So we have contact information that's a few years old, but we could definitely chat more if you're interested in making connections with those folks. Other questions? Going once. Going twice. Try to always give it like 5 seconds here.
I have a quick question and a statement. Great. I'll volunteer myself again. My big question, I guess, would be, are you going to be putting your contact information, where we can contact you for questions about, our own programs? City of Boise, it's illegal to ban plastic bags, and we don't have pot. So, there's those things. We have a uphill battle, right? But I would really, appreciate, and I appreciate all of you guys for, putting on this webinar and teaching us about how you've been doing it. And if you can put your contact informations in the chat, be really helpful for us as we navigate building our green business programs here at the city. So thank you. And I guess my statement is you guys are doing great. So excited to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. I will send that over to you. Thanks. Perfect, Amy. Yeah, you can reach out to us via the Green Business email. That's managed by Amy and myself. We have like 3 team members who work on it. So that will go to us. There's not like a team of 40 that's responding to all those emails. It's us. So yeah, if you want to reach out to us there, and yeah, thanks so much for joining. I think often we will get municipalities that reach out to us via the Green Business Hotline and just say like, we're looking at doing this thing with our city council, or want to get some ideas for how we might implement this, and what learnings you may have had in terms of the program or policy implementation. So feel free to reach out, and if we can't answer, we can always direct you to the appropriate person at the city.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to give it 3 seconds again for any final questions. Okay. Well, thank you all so much for joining us. Thank you so much to Daniel and Riley at 2030 District for pulling this all together. We will send out a recording afterwards for folks who may not have been available, or if you want to revisit all of the things we talked about today. But thanks so much for your questions and for joining us. And the Green Business Program and EnviroStars are here to support if you have any needs for that in the future. So thank you.